going to show you how to make loops and then attach them to basic pendants. I'm using borosilicate glass. My torch is a Carlisle CC. And I'm just going to start right now. I'm using a 4mm clear coral. The flavor I use is Simax. Pyrex works just as well. And I'm going to clean off the tip of my rod. And that also pulls it to just a little bit of a point, which we're going to zoom in just a bit. There we go. And in order to make loops, what I've found works best for me is to make the loops ahead of time. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to heat, I don't start directly at the tip, I start just a little ways back from the tip, because if you start right at the tip it forms into a ball, but if you start a little ways back, you can just heat, and you see I'm just rocking it back and forth, and the glass is looping down, and then while it's still soft, I'm going to bend it over into the shape of a loop. And then where it touches, I'm going to heat that area really nicely. I'm going to grab a hold of the loop, kind of press that join together, melt it in really nicely, and then draw off my rod. And there's one loop. And I usually make several in, slightly different sizes. That way, once I have my finished pendant, I can pick the loop that comes closest to the size that I really want. So I just heat until it sags down a bit. I grab, I touch, and I heat where it touches, mash it together good, kind of pull the rod across so that those two areas join nicely. And I heat it up so that, because I don't really want a long jaggy thing like that, it makes it really difficult to attach the pendant. So I'm just going to heat until it balls up a little bit and set it down. I'm just going to clean up the tip. And make one more. And they go fairly quickly, as you can see, they literally take 30 seconds or so a piece, I would guess. I don't know, maybe they go even faster than that, especially when I'm not nattering away and pausing to talk to the camera. Heat, grab a hold of it, and melt off. So now I'm going to make a pendant. And to make a pendant, just because it was what I happened to pick up, this is a flat bar stock. The glass I'm using is Northstar Silver Pearl, because it was what happened to be on my work surface, which is kind of messy, as you can tell. I'm going to heat up the flat stock, and then I'm going to heat up my color. I'm just going to draw on a bit of color. Now when you draw, the line will start really easy, and then it gets stiff. As the glass that you pre-softened in the flame gets used up, you kind of have to pause, let the heat soak into the glass before you can draw the rest of your line. So there's a pause. I'm just letting some heat soak in, putting a little bit of pressure, drawing just a little bit further down, and then melt gently off. And I'm going to find another rod of something or other. I touch these two together. I'm going to kind of gather this up a little bit. This is not a particularly fancy pendant. I'm not trying for any specific design or anything. I'm just heating it, and as it softens, I'm kind of pausing with one hand and turning with the other, and that'll give it a nice spiral. And I'm going to press slightly together, just very slowly. I'm inching this together so that it just kind of forms up into a little bit more of a ball shape. I'm going to let it stiffen up for just a second, and then remove my handle. Melt this a little bit more. The foot pedal, so I'm going to actually turn on my outer ring here. Give me a little bit more heat so this goes a little faster. And what I'm doing is I'm just melting in the line. I'm trying to get this into a smooth, roughly ball shape, but since I'm going to kind of flatten this and go for roughly a leaf-shaped pendant, it doesn't have to be a perfect sphere or anything. Now that I've got that, I'm going to take this, and again, of course, out of camera, so I won't do it. Let me grab this other tool. So these are our parallel mashers. I've got my ball nice and evenly hot all the way through. And I'm just going to press gently and release. And that gives me a nice paddle shape. Heat it to take out the tool marks. Because every time you use a tool on something, it gives it chill marks. And then I'm going to pick up one of the loops that one seems a little big. I've got a smaller one here that looks a little bit more balanced. I'm going to heat the loop at the little base, the sort of the point of the teardrop shape on the loop, and heat my pendant. Heat the loop really nicely, heat my pendant, trying to keep them both in the flame and get them both glowing a nice, bright, yellowish orange. Definitely a bright orange. If you can get it up to a little bit of a yellow glow, that's even better. You want them super hot. And then in the flame, I'm going to touch together, press a little bit, pause just a second, and then pull. And because it was so hot, that join is really, really nice and seamless. I didn't get a big ripple or anything. It's just a nice join. I'm going to actually clean this up a little bit here because it's not as smooth as I would like. And I'm going to heat primarily on the pendant because the loop is very skinny. It will heat very quickly. I don't want my loop to melt into oblivion. I just want that join to join smoothly. And I'm heating both sides. I'm heating all the way around so that glass is just going to flow really nicely. Get it nice and hot. And the glass is going to kind of round up a little bit. If I heat too much on my loop, the loop is just going to shrink down and form into a solid ball and I'll lose the loop. But because I'm keeping the loop out on this side of the flame, the loop stays nice and firm, it stays open. And then once that's kind of balled up, I can just give this a little bit of a tug, just using a long needle nose pliers, or chain nose, I guess. And there's a nice little pendant. And then to finish this, I'm continuing to turn this so that my loop doesn't sag off center while it's cooling. Once it's cool, then I'm going to heat the bottom half of the pendant, the entire half. I don't want to be stingy. I don't want to heat way down here. I'm actually heating a bunch of the pendant because I'm going to stretch this out and give it just a little bit of a twist while I melt it off. So I'm just really getting the heat in there. I want the heat to soak all the way to the center. The skin of the pendant heats up fairly quickly, but it's not until you can kind of see it slowly sagging like that. That's when I know that the glass at the core of the pendant is starting to get nice and solid. And you notice I keep turning it. I'm trying to keep the pendant fairly straight, and now it's getting nice and gooshy, soggy, soft, however you want to call it. So I'm going to grab a hold of the loop, I'm going to stretch slowly, give it a little bit of a twist. I'm not pulling very hard. And I'm going to let that set up. Polish it just a little bit, just in case I got any little sort of devent marks or crystallization because I was moving the glass as it was cooling. Let that set up again, and then down here at the point of the pendant, just going to kind of tug and melt it off. Got a little bit extra glass there. I'm going to heat the glass, and I'm just going to kind of use this just to wipe the glass off. Just that same rod that's right in my hand, I'm just going to wipe off. Melt those little antennae back so that they don't stick onto my pendant. And just kind of clean out the point just a little bit. There we go. And there is a nice finished pendant. As you can see, the loop is on there really nice and firmly. There's no visible seams at all. The loop is completely incorporated into the body of the pendant. If there's a visible seam, it means you didn't get that join quite hot enough and your loop isn't going to be all that strong. But in this case, it's a nice continuous loop. You can't feel any seams on either side. The loop is nice and straight up and down and centered, more or less left to right. And that's the finished pendant, all ready to be worn.